With Garry, you're like, oh no, this is very, hate to make the comparison because they're completely different, but it's very Conor-like. When they say something like, oh, he believes that. That's not like a gimmick like a lot of guys are doing.
Right. Kenny, it's interesting. Jailton Almeida is like very close to the top of the heavyweight division already, and yet we're going to lead our show in an hour with Ian Machado Garry, man. I mean, no doubt about it. People just don't understand the extent to which this kid is a mental giant. He's just getting started at 25. I could go on, but I mean, if he's not a future champion, I certainly think at some point he's fighting for the title, and I feel pretty good going chips to the center of the table on that kid even right now.
And now, Brendan Thiccc Schaub.
What is poppin', fam? It is Monday, May 15th. In a lovely, sunny Calabasas, California morning. What is going on, fam? We got a very special episode today because my boys, the two brilliant men from the Jon Anik and Kenny Florian podcast, available on DraftKings now, is jumping on the show to chat some fisticuffs with me. Two of my favorite people. I've known these guys for a hot second. I've worked with both gentlemen, and they're two of the smartest, brightest men in the game. So I'm happy to have them on the show today, breaking down everything UFC related, PFL, Francis Ngannou news. So it should be a fun one. As far as tour dates coming up, this Friday I'm at the Ice House, Schaub and Friends, 8 p.m. show. It's almost sold out. It is Eric Griffin, Sam Tripoli, Jeff Dye. We got a whole freaking lineup of monsters that is this Friday at the Ice House. Yeah, you have Eric Griffin, Jeff Dye, Sam Tripoli, Grant Cotter. It's going to be a fun one. That's at 8 p.m. at the new Ice House in Pasadena, California. And that's just the Schaub and Friends. But as far as tour dates goes, I'm back on the road starting June 2nd through the 4th in La Jolla, California, basically San Diego, right outside San Diego. La Jolla Comedy Store, one of the best venues in all of the land. That's going down June 2nd through the 4th. That's a Friday 2 shows, Saturday 2 shows, Sunday 1 show at 7 p.m. So that's in La Jolla, California at the Comedy Store. And then after that, your boy's jumping across the pond. This is one show in every city in Europe. It's a theater run, so it starts in Belfast, June 15th, Glasgow, June 17th, Manchester, June 18th, London, June 22nd, Cardiff, June 23rd, and I'm ending the tour in Dublin, June 25th. Can't wait. I will see you guys there. Let's jump right into the show. Two of my faves, like I told you guys, you got Jon Anik, Kenny Florian. Join me now. Enjoy the show. This episode of the Schaub Show with Kenny Florian and Jon Anik is brought to you by Happy Hippo Kratom. Boy, you guys know I love me some Happy Hippo Kratom. I use it before every show, and I reached out to them to be part of the show because I use the product so much. It helps me just get stuff done when I need to. However you want to try your Kratom, whether you want to get it in your freaking powders, your gummies. I use the instant shots, but Happy Hippo, they're changing the game. You got the new K-Dips. Now, you know I love nicotine pouches. They're tobacco-free, right? The nicotine I use. So my friends at Happy Hippo say, oh, you like to use pouches in your mouth? How about the first ever Kratom pouches? This is the Blue Razzle. They come in wintergreen as well. I mess with the Blue Razzle. It's the first ever to market. Feel the K, Kratom extract infused pouches, man. What are they doing? The world's first game-changing tobacco, nicotine-free Kratom extract pouches. This is a Happy Hippo exclusive. It's available right now at happyhippo.com, and you can save 20% off when you go to happyhippo.com. Promo code is THICC23 for 20% off. That's Thick with 3 C's. Try the new K-Dips. It's the first to market ever. Kratom pouches, K-Dips, available right now at happyhippo.com. I know you guys are like me using all the nicotine pouches. Some use the tobacco pouches. Try the Kratom. Step your game up. Feel the K. The new K-Dips from Happy Hippo, first to market ever, is available right now. They have wintergreen. They have the Blue Razzle, which I like. It's less than 1 gram of sugar per pouch, all right? You don't have to spit, none of that stuff. It's not that. It's not like chewing tobacco, all right? So it's tobacco-free, nicotine-free. It's just absolutely pure Kratom heaven in a pouch. K-Dips, happyhippo.com. Promo code THICC23 for 20% off. Get you some. So, fellas, or especially you, John, coming off the big Charlotte card, my man. Wait, before we get into any fighting, my Nuggets are playing the Lakers, I would bet hard, cold cash. I know you're a betting man, so are you, Kenny? I'd bet hard, cold cash it's Nuggets versus Celtics in the finals.
Well, the Celtics, I feel like, have been the best team for 2 years. No rings as yet to show for it. So I like your forecast. But yeah, I mean, I think the Nuggets are the team to beat right now. If I look at the Final Four, they'll be favored obviously in this series against the Lakers, and I think depending on how it goes, they'll be favored against the Celtics. But yeah, we're hopeful, man. As soon as DC walked into our fighter meeting and started banging on the Celtics down 3-2, I knew they were going to win Game 6 and 7.
Yeah, we just need Tatum. We just need Tatum to keep dropping 50+ points a game, and we should be good.
God dang, that dude
He's
is
such a beast.
Such a beast. Yeah, and it's weird living in LA and being, like a diehard Nuggets fan. Like I was at this birthday party yesterday from one of my son's friends, and all the dads are talking all this trash about the Nuggets. I'm like, you guys are out of your mind. I was like, where was this energy during the regular season? They're such fair-weathered fans.
For sure.
Well, Alexander Volkanovski is a big Denver Nuggets fan because he crossed paths with Jamal Murray and he was befriended by those guys. I actually bought him a Celtics jersey number 55 to try to push him in that direction.
How dare you?
Certainly the Volk man is hoping that it's a Nuggets Celtics final. But no, I mean, I don't have to tell you, when Jamal Murray's healthy, when the Nuggets are healthy, they're a totally different team. And Jokic is the best player that I've seen certainly this year with respect to Joel Embiid. I thought you were going to lead with me being in Charlotte, North Carolina. So I got to see the Team Florian relocation from Venice, California to the East Coast. And let us just say the man made a good decision.
Did he? You love it out there, Kenny?
It's cool, man. We like it. We like it. It's been fun, man.
Good for you, man. Yeah, that Charlotte crowd was nuts.
They were into it, dude.
For a fight night, too. Was it the biggest gate for a fight night, I think?
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Biggest domestic audience, too, 18,712, I believe, for a domestic UFC Fight Night. I kind of felt like UFC Fight Night Dillashaw Cruise in Boston might have been 20,000 plus, but I guess I was wrong on that. Yeah, it was a great crowd, and I did say on the broadcast, people tend to boo the wrestling and the grappling almost instantaneously in the U.S. So if I had any complaint about that crowd, it's only that they just had a little bit of impatience when it came to the wrestling and the grappling. But I just have to say, as a city, in terms of the people, and a place that I would probably relocate my family if I could now. Wow. It's Charlotte, North Carolina. Yeah, it was just, it blew my mind. I mean, the kid's got what is it, a 40-foot swing attached to a goddamn tree in his backyard?
What? Yeah, Kenny, you didn't have that in Venice, California, my man.
No, I didn't. Yeah.
How many feet, Kenny? How many feet?
It's pretty damn tall, dude. So
he's going to get very injured on this thing, B. I'm telling you.
And are there state taxes out there?
There is not like LA. I mean, not like Cali, but it's definitely a lot less.
And how's that homeless situation? Is the homeless popping out there like LA?
Nah.
Man, I mean, I might be joining you guys too. Let me know, Anik. We'll get a timeshare together, bro. Man. Mix the families. As long as you're cool with fish, though, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, I thought the Charlotte card overall, man, was stacked for a fight night. And obviously, the narrative on, I think Ian Garry stole the show. I think he walked away as the superstar in the entire card. That kid has superstar written all over him. And you guys know more so than anyone, when fighters come in, they have like that arrogance about them and they're calling their shots and there's this, sense of confidence. And we can feel when it's not authentic. With Garry, you're like, oh no, this is very, hate to make the comparison because they're completely different, but it's very Conor-like. When they say something like, oh, he believes that. That's not like a gimmick like a lot of guys are doing.
Kenny, it's interesting. Jailton Almeida is like very close to the top of the heavyweight division already, and yet we're going to lead our show in an hour with Ian Machado Garry, man. I mean, no doubt about it. People just don't understand the extent to which this kid is a mental giant. He's just getting started at 25. I could go on, but I mean, if he's not a future champion, I certainly think at some point he's fighting for the title, and I feel pretty good going chips to the center of the table on that kid even right now.
Agreed. Yeah, well, what's cool is you can see that passion that he has for the game, which I think you absolutely need to have. It's not like, oh, he's there to be famous or anything. Like, he wants to fight. He wants to face the best, and he's got the talent, man. And every single fight we've seen him in, I think we've seen improvement. So he's clearly training with the right guys. He's traveling around. and wants to prove himself, and he's doing that each and every fight.
I like the progression of his career too. Like, D-Rod was not that's not an easy night in the office, man. D-Rod's no joke, and he passed out with flying colors. So you got Ian Garry on there. You got a lot of guys that I think are going to fight for a title pretty soon here. With the main event with the heavyweights. Then you also had Johnny Walker, Anthony Smith.
Yeah, it's a great time for a lot of these divisions, and I hate to cut you off, but the welterweight division's interesting because I just looked at the rankings before we came on, and Kamaru Usman and Khamzat Chimaev are up there occupying slots like 1 and 4, 2 and 4. So there's going to be a lot of movement in the UFC's welterweight division, and I know Ian Garry's got a lot of teammates residing in that top 15, but dude, I mean, this kid, man, the appetite for knowledge, like he's going to Brazil May 21st because he wants to really wrap himself around how they do jiu-jitsu, which seemingly is different than anywhere else in the world. You guys both can obviously speak to that. And then he's going to go to fucking New Zealand to hang out with Israel Adesanya. Better fucking get him now. Neil Magny and everybody else. Better get him now.
I agree. He called out Neil Magny. I was like, ooh, that is a tough test for him, but I like, Neil's my guy. I train with Neil, so Neil, hopefully he's not watching the show, but that's a tough one, man. This Garry kid is the real deal, man. I'm all in. When I get all in on guys, I am the biggest dick rider, man. I'll buy his merch. I'll be a little cage rat next, yelling his name and shit.
Yeah. It's funny you say that because I bought his merch yesterday on Instagram.
Yeah, bro.
And the thing is, I support the whole roster, right? There's this false narrative that I support only Belal Muhammad and nobody else. I try to support all the athletes, right? I mean, I think I bought a cannabis grinder on Sugar Sean's website. I try to spread out the love. You
have to, man. You have to. But yeah, I'm all in on this kid. But yeah, the whole night. I'll tell you what was interesting too is I know I'm jumping around a little bit, but with the Anthony Smith, Johnny Walker fight, obviously very tough night in the office for Anthony Smith. And I love Anthony Smith, huge fan of Anthony Smith. The only reason I wanted Johnny Walker to win is because I wanted Johnny Walker, Alex Pereira. That's my dream fight at light heavyweight for whatever reason. I'm weird. I think it'd be such a fun fight. But I thought it was so interesting when Anthony Smith was losing, they picked up on the mic. He goes, "You came for my family." And I was like, oh, is this like one of those like flashbacks when he was getting robbed at the house? And because Johnny Walker's like, what? He's like, "You came for my family." So the narrative online, especially on Twitter, was like, is he having like a PTSD type of situation? Because Johnny Walker's like, "I never came for your family. What are you talking about, man?"
Wow.
Yeah.
You're opening my mind right up on a Monday morning, if I'm being honest, because it did seem out of left field. Now, if you don't know the narrative coming in, Johnny Walker ended up in Omaha, Nebraska, training with one of Anthony Smith's coaches or former coaches, and that seemed very much like a mind game, like Johnny Walker, right? It's sort of a weird backdrop to begin with, right? Brazilian guy, trains in Ireland, met his wife there, and now he's in Omaha, Nebraska, training with one of Lionheart's coaches, But no, I don't think there's any family stuff going on. And hey, I mean, Anthony Smith is one of my dear friends. I think he's probably a future color commentator for the UFC, if I could go as far as to say that. But
he's great at it too. He's really good at it. Yeah, and that again. This is, I'm out of the game, man. I tell dick jokes for a living. I'm just saying, I thought it was very, where he's like, "You came from my family." I was like, oh, is this like one of those, like, is that what he needs to get this motor going? Like, is he traumatized by the home invasion there? Could be completely off. And Anthony Smith, got Schaub.
I was thinking about that incident. I remember when I was watching his fight, but pretty crazy story. That guy just breaking. Imagine, someone at like 4 a.m., just some dude screaming at the top of their lungs, who's not supposed to be in your house, and you got your kids there. I mean, that's just insane. But for Anthony Smith, it seemed like he didn't really want to be there. And Johnny Walker seemed like he was hesitant to go out there and finish the job. It was kind of an odd fight there. And, I think that's always going to be the question mark when you get a guy who is doing commentating or he's doing, the fight analysis while he's fighting. Obviously I did that. People are going to ask questions like, is this what he wants to do? Is he halfway in, halfway out? And for Anthony Smith, I don't know, the last few fights, I don't know if it's directly related to him doing TV work, but just looking from the outside in and being honest, I don't know. It didn't seem like he wanted to be there that night. I don't know. Something definitely seemed to be off, and it just wasn't that fight. But
because one thing about Anthony Smith, he's a dog, man. That guy came up in the regional circuit like I did. I've known about Anthony for a long time. Anthony is a dog through and through. So
ton of fights.
Yeah, when I see that, yeah, I agree. Did you have similar feelings, Kenny, when you knew you had a kind of a path? So you're not 1 foot, you're kind of 1 foot in, 1 foot out because you know you're gonna have a career doing this thing, yet you're still competing at the highest level.
I did not. I never really had that. I knew that, like, hey, when I'm done, I'm going to be done. I had no problem calling it quits. And when my body kind of gave out, my back was just kind of repeatedly giving out on me. I'm like, all right, I'm done. But when I was fighting, I would take time off. I would always take like at least a month off away from doing TV stuff. And I'd always get my training in when I was working and traveling. But I don't know. Maybe I wasn't working as much as some of these guys too. So.
Yeah, you look at Dominic Cruz's schedule. I just had him on Calabasas Fight Campaign. He was telling me how he's like, I'm not retired, man. I have no plans to. He's like, I'm still doing the works. He's like, so not only he worked Charlotte with you, John, but he was like, I'm training 6 days a week still, so I have to manage the schedule, and then I'm also trying to put in the work for the broadcast. I'm like, geez, dude, to compete at that level and the demands that it takes. You guys know better than anybody. It's not easy, man.
Yeah, when Dominic has a fight, he will shut it all down for probably 8 to 10 weeks. And I think for Anthony Smith, there's a lot of layers to this, right? It just crossed the 1 year anniversary of his mother's passing, and he didn't effectively mourn that early on. I think now he did. There was a dust up with Mark Montoya back in the day. They have since buried the hatchet. They are realigned. There's a lot of traveling when it comes to his training, and then he goes home to the 4 daughters. Just a lot of back and forth and a lot of asking of himself, I think, mentally and emotionally and physically. So, I do believe that sometimes guys just think they can do it all, and sometimes you just don't sort of give enough credit to the mental and how much it can weigh on you. But, I do think the story is Johnny Walker. I know a lot of people are critical of the performance. Sometimes we hear guys talk about like being focused on getting 15 minutes in, and it's sort of a weird mentality that they're focused on trying to get those 15 minutes against a top 5 guy. Because Johnny Walker got to be careful, right? Like my scorecard had a 1-1 going into the third. Now that might be the minority, but I actually thought Anthony Smith with some of those right hands won round 2. So I understand Johnny Walker won this fight, and I did have him winning this fight. You can argue that he won round 2. Got to be careful dicking around in there with all due respect.
Yeah, I think for Johnny Walker too, the narrative, maybe a little bit of cardio issues early on. The career didn't go exactly as planned. Now it's kind of coming to fruition. He had what he thought the fight in the bag, which I kind of agree with him with the leg kicks and overall damage, especially almost finished in the third. So I think he was just kind of weighing the pros and cons. And then also, Anthony Smith is a staple of the division, especially in the top 5 for how long? I mean, the guy's a damn monster. So I think for Johnny Walker, he's like, we got this one, man. We've done enough work. I think he could have got him out of there. You saw that jumping knee that kind of rocked Anthony. There's some times there we could have got him out, but I'm not mad at it. Obviously the fans are. I'm sure, some of the UFC brass probably want to see him get the finish, but for his progression, I agree with him. When you're going in there and you're starching the dude in the first round or maybe the second round, you're not learning a lot about your training camp, where you're at mentally. So for Johnny Walker, I think it was something he needed for himself in order to move on, because now he's going to be ranked probably, what was he, 6? So I think he'll probably get in the top 4, maybe top 5. So that it's like, it's only tougher from here, man. Those guys are tough to get out of there too. So when I see that, I'm like, oh, he's maturing. It's a good thing. He's doing the opposite of what Ja Morant's doing. He's maturing. He's not going on IG Live with guns and playing grab ass.
No, and Kenny, I'll throw it to you. I mean, in our fighter meeting, the word that I kept coming back to with Johnny Walker was maturity. It came out of his mouth. So that absolutely dovetails with what you are saying, And I'm not even suggesting that in the past, we've talked about Piotr Jan maybe playing with his food. I don't think it was that, and I do think that Johnny Walker, he's not asking for a title fight, right? So I do think that it's valuable experience, and we'll see where Anthony Smith goes from here. Looked like he took off his gloves, Kenny, but I think he'll at least fight one more time. Might even have a new contract if I'm not mistaken. So I think you'll hear from Lionheart at least one more time, if not 2.
I also think it's respect from Johnny Walker to Anthony Smith. That's how dangerous Anthony Smith is. He's like, nah, man, I've seen this dude.
Yeah.
He
was headhunting. He was throwing that overhand right repeatedly, and Johnny Walker keeps that head pretty high. So, I think all those points are valid for sure. They're fair.
And there's maturity when he didn't do the worm and blow his shoulder out. He did that weird fish thing where his coach was like reeling him in, which I love fish, so I dug it. He got a lot of hate on the internet for it, but I actually enjoyed the celebration.
My favorite celebration of all time, Israel Adesanya's UFC debut when he pissed on the side of the octagon. It was absolutely brilliant.
100%. Fantastic.
Marking his territory.
Then we get off Charlotte after this. Then when the main event, you look at Almeida there, the guy's the real deal, huh? I mean, his opening shot seemed a little desperate, and he got, with Biggie Boy there, he got kind of rejected with that, but eventually he got the fight to the mat, and it was only a matter of time. Beautiful jiu-jitsu. I don't think Rosenstruck is he's probably a 3-stripe white belt down there, but still, with Almeida, he was smart, man. He's smart with it, set it up, another finish. I'm not fully sold on him like I am Ian Garry yet. I'd like to see how he does in the striking department against some guys when he can't get that takedown before I, say he's going to beat John Jones, and stuff like that. But the guy's a savage, that's for sure. First team all body as well.
Yeah, Kenny, I mean, there aren't a lot of points of comparison when it comes to offensive jiu-jitsu and the history of heavyweights in mixed martial arts. And we're not even talking about Fabricio Verdum or Frank Mir or some of these elite guys, Nogueira, right? This dude is a little bit of a different breed. He can strike too. He hasn't even had to show anybody that. Maybe a little bit undersized. But man, he knows how to get to where he wants to get to and get guys out of there. I'm not so sure that he's not going to expedite this process here.
What did he weigh in at before you go, Kenny? What did he weigh in at?
He was light.
31.
He was light. Now, is he going to stick with heavyweight, or is he going to go back and forth? I mean, the dude is a physical specimen, man. He could have been a professional bodybuilder for fine.
Yeah. I mean, heavyweight's like as deep as like a splash pool, right? So I think he should stay. No, I'm just kidding.
I think a good point.
He's right there already. Yeah. He's already right there in the top, 8 probably. So
Rosenstruck looked like a refrigerator, though. He was big. I mean, he was wide. I mean,
didn't he put on weight too? Didn't Rosenstruck put on some weight? Did they say 20 pounds?
Yeah, so it's an interesting narrative because if you do go back and look at his UFC debut against Junior Baby Albini, remember the guy who wore the diaper? He weighed 241 and a half, and he looked thin, right? His face was thinner than mine back then, right? So now 265, cutting down to the limit. Most of that is muscle. In this match, I'm not sure that's particularly useful, but I mean, I don't know. He looks pretty strong to me, but 25 pounds since the debut.
Wow.
Yeah, it could just be age too, Sometimes the weight just comes, man. It's like tough.
Almeida tried to hit a double leg at one point, literally bounced off of the dude. He was just bounced back. He's like, all right, let me reset. But then once he got him on the ground, man, he was just dominant, excellent control, moved into the mount seamlessly. And the fight was over pretty much shortly after that. So he's looking good, man. He really is. And I think, to Brendan's point, I'd like to see him get a little more comfortable on the feet. And obviously, you don't want to trade with someone like Rosenstruck for too long. But, he maybe a little panicky out there. And again, that's going to come from experience, right? He hasn't been in the UFC for a long time. So, but I think with more octagon time, we're going to see that comfort level and maybe see more of his striking kind of come out and his overall mixed martial arts game. But no question, the dude's got some serious potential.
But also his first main event too. His first main event, so there could have been a little bit of panic there. It's Rosenstruck, who's a knockout artist. I'm just saying when I look at the lay of the land there, you look at Sergey Pavlovich, and you're like, that takedown ain't going to get done there, Bubba. That's not going to do it. Now, I don't know how his chain wrestling, how his single leg is. In heavyweight, that's super important. So we'll see. But, the kid has a ton of potential. Well, you put forth a performance like that, and I do hear a lot of people saying, Sergey Pavlovich is going to knock his head off. And that sometimes happens, I think, in the fight game is you see this guy emerge, and it's like, well, wait a second. Look what Sergey Pavlovich did to Curtis Blades, who to me is one of the greatest fighters in UFC history to have never fought for a title in any division. But look at Jailton Almeida against Curtis Blades. He's going to approach this career, I would think Almeida is, as a specialist, trying to take everybody down, chain them together, desperately trying to get this to a grappling situation because he can put people away. I remember, I'm a broken record when it comes to this, but offensive jiu-jitsu is just a lost art. Daniel Cormier went to Ken Flo back in the day at Fox, tell me how to have a real good signature rear naked choke that I can always execute in the octagon, among other things that he went to Kenny about. But dude, it's there's so many of these guys, right? Even guys who I hold in the highest regard, like Kamaru Usman, Belal Muhammad, they get you down all day. They don't necessarily have a signature choke or the means by which to get to a mount or a back to put you the fuck away. Yeah, my only kind of hiccup there with Almeida, it's like, he goes, you look at these guys that are so successful just being specialists from grappling. In his list, he listed Khabib, obviously, and some other huge names. Those guys have a extensive background in straight up wrestling. There's not a lot of pure jiu-jitsu guys that get to the top, if that makes sense.
That's fair.
As far as like straight jiu-jitsu where you don't have an extensive wrestling background to get the guys to the mat, there's a difference between a guy like Khabib or a guy like Ben Askren or DC who they're going to get you to the mat whether you like it or not. John Jones, if he wants to. Those guys, it's just a different level that they're coming from opposed to Almeida with that pure jiu-jitsu, with a lot of the gi, the trip, stuff like that. It's tough to pull off at a high level in MMA. Kenny, do you hate that? Or
Yeah, no, I think the focus is different, right? First of all, obviously, jiu-jitsu guys aren't necessarily known for crisp and efficient takedowns, and a lot of guys, they'll look for ways to kind of, maybe sweep or get on top, and they I think transitioning from the sport of jiu-jitsu is so different for these guys. They haven't come from that aspect of this is a fight. I'm going to use my strikes to set up submissions. I think you're right though when you're talking about guys who can finish from that top position. There's Damian Maia, and he could do that because he worked heavily on his wrestling. But as far as other jiu-jitsu guys that are just so dominant, you have Oliveira, but I mean, maybe that's it. And there's, some high-level jiu-jitsu guys walking around in the UFC, but, Ryan Hall is great, but he'll do it mostly off of his back and, transitions. I think we'll see that from him when he does get on top. But as far as guys who have shown it time and time again, Damian Maia and Charles Oliveira, kind of the only guys that come to mind. So I agree with John that it is a dying art. And what they need to do is start to get together and work on their wrestling, get together with the wrestlers and learn what they're doing. And wrestlers need to get together with the jiu-jitsu guys and figure out what's going on the ground. But we're just not seeing that.
If I'm Almeida, I'm bunking up with Bo Nickel. I'm moving to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I'm bunking up with Bo Nickel. That's what I'm going to do.
For sure.
I guess I just feel like Jairzinho Rozenstruik, however green and white he is in the jiu-jitsu realm, spends 9 weeks trying to avoid this very fate of being finished by the 6-1 favorite in round one. And sure as shit, Jailton Almeida goes out and finishes him in round one. Impressive. And I do think in some respects it is easier said than done. So I'm curious, right? And I also think, too, we're now 5 fights deep, 5 fighter meetings deep with this guy. We see the maturity, and it really, I think, through interpretation can translate in that setting. You realize how thoughtful he is. So, yeah, I mean, I'm a promoter, but I'm very excited.
Yeah, I'm excited regardless. Yeah, I think the sky's the limit for him. Just a few small changes, just that heavyweight division, those top dogs, a lot of wrestling up there that he has to get by, especially with Pavlich, and Curtis Blades. Him versus some of the other guys. Cyril Gahn would be interesting, stuff like that. But moving on, obviously super dear to you guys, our boy Belal Muhammad, who I can't, one of the greatest guys walking this earth, got the job done against Gilbert Burns. The thing that bothers me about the narrative is, Gilbert was hurt. It's like, Belal has nothing to do with that. So I think he's the most underappreciated guy we have in the UFC. And even, I think even if he went in there and got a 30-second knockout, he still wouldn't have got his credit. Him and Aljamain Sterling are the most disrespected guys in the UFC, which I don't understand because they're two of the greatest guys you'll ever meet. They're just solid people. So with Belal, it's like, I don't think regardless how that fight went, he was going to get the title shot. Dana's pretty stuck on Colby and Leon. So for Muhammad, you think he gets probably one more in before he actually gets that title shot, or he's gonna chill? He's gonna be the alternate for that fight?
No, I don't know if he'll be the backup, but he certainly will fight for the title next. There will be no title eliminator. And obviously this is close to me and Kenny. If you don't know, he has a show on our Anik and Florian podcast YouTube channel. But before I spin it over to Ken Flo, he knew that he was not going to be offered a title eliminator unless it was in a circumstance like this on short notice, right? It seemed like maybe the foundation was going to be laid for him to fight Shavkat Rakhmonov, and only if he beat him would he get a fight like a Gilbert Burns fight. So he had to take the Gilbert Burns fight. He took it. He went a little bit too full throttle, injured his ankle, fought through all of that, and just as mentally forged as Gilbert Burns or anybody else, right? I mean, we got mad love for Durinho, of course, but yeah, I mean, Belal knew that he had to take this fight to set up a title fight, and yeah, he'll sit for 18 months if he has to.
Good for him.
Yeah, Belal's one of those guys, I've talked about this on the podcast, and maybe I could relate to a little bit where guys are like, there's nothing that stands out on this guy. There's nothing that wows you, but man, he knows how to put it all together. And what's really interesting about Belal, he's also kind of a chameleon in that he can beat you in a lot of different ways. He may not be that crazy finisher, but he knows how to win rounds, and he can do it in a variety of ways. And I think that's what makes him such a tough out for a lot of people. Gilbert Burns had a lot of momentum heading his way, but I think when they got inside the octagon, even I was a little surprised at how much bigger Belal looked. And considering all the outside circumstances that Belal had to deal with, the injured ankle, taking the fight on short notice, coming off of Ramadan, all those things, and still seeing him perform that way, like he did a 5-round camp for months, was pretty mind-bending, man. It was really, really impressive, and obviously, proved that he's the next guy to get the shot, and absolutely deserved it.
Agree 100%. I think too with Muhammad, it's to me, he checks all boxes, right? We both, obviously, John and Ken, you guys are interviewing fighters all the time. You're watching all the fights. I have a lot of fighters come through here. With Muhammad, it's like, well, this guy checks every box, man. He's well-spoken, educated guy. His immigrant mentality, his family that started in Chicago and owned a business, and just the way he came up, to me, he checks all boxes. I guess if I'm, let's say I was a promoter, I guess the one kind of hiccup would be he's not known as a finisher. Obviously, the Sean Brady was a big finish for him, but outside that'd really be the only kind of
he doesn't talk shit.
Yeah,
he doesn't talk shit. That's the other thing, right? And he shouldn't, because that's not his style. That's not what he does. He's being authentic to himself. But I think that's the other thing. He's not out there, being flashy and doing a bunch of interviews outside of camps. He's doing all of his work behind closed doors, I think, and I think that's can be a hindrance to him at times as well. He's not out acting the fool and for better or worse. And I think that hurts him a little bit, maybe marketing wise. Yeah,
I think Dominic Cruz said it best. I said, how do you feel with, obviously the UFC's merged with under the same banner as WWE, and guys that do talk trash and do all these flashy things might, get to the title shot faster, get more fame faster, more Instagram followers faster. And, Dominic said it great. He goes, if that's what the company's asking, and you can see that guys do that, maybe they don't have to go through the same kind of as many fights to get a title shot. The road's different. He's like, so you can do that if you want, and it's going to help you out. And if you choose not to, that's fine, but you're just going to have a tougher road. And for Muhammad, He just has a tougher road. You look at certain guys, they just have a different road, man. So, yeah, you can do it, and maybe you might, get a title shot faster. But for Muhammad, he's like, no, I'm just going to be true to myself. But, boy, it's going to be a tough road. But when you do get to that title shot, there's not a person on this earth who can argue that Muhammad didn't earn every single right to fight for a title.
But you're right. I mean, you did not bury the lead. The chief knock on him is that he hasn't put a ton of people away, right? And the only other thing I really see is that he doesn't necessarily have the fan support of certain people, right? Like obviously him and Aljamain Sterling got it pretty good in Newark, and there's a big Brazilian population in New Jersey, so perhaps that clouded things a little bit, right? But correct me if I'm wrong, fellas, like it's good when the fan base really likes you, right? And that is reflected in the internal metrics, right? Like for all of the people who think Cejudo is just so cringeworthy, kid's got a fan base, you know, and Belal's got a fan base too. Don't get me wrong, but if Belal's walking out in Newark, like Gilbert Burns is a fan favorite. Like you don't think that helps him with Hunter and Dana? Like I think it really does.
Agree, but also for a lot of times you either want the fan base to love you or hate you. When they're in the middle, it's tough.
Right.
You look at Colby Covington, which I'm sure he has a good sized fan base who actually love him. Yeah. There's a lot more people that hate him. Either way, it's a Floyd Mayweather effect. As long as they're tuning in, that's all you care about.
Yeah. Right. No, I think that's true. I think Kenny needs more haters, right?
You don't want that, Kenny. Trust me, man. It's heavy lies the crown, dude. I got my fair share, and it's exhausting.
Yeah.
It is exhausting, dude. But
No, I mean, I think a lot of us extract opinions on both sides, and you just kind of take it for what it is, you know. But
you look at that welterweight division. Obviously, Leon Edwards and Colby Covington are fighting, but Khamzat and Kamaru Usman. I mean, it sounds like it's pretty much done. I don't know if you guys have any inside info on that, but it sounds like it's pretty much done. Someone signed a contract, and once he put that little smirky face on Twitter, I'm like, oh, that's as good as gold. This fight's happening.
Wait, but John, is the Colby Leon Edwards set in stone? I don't know if Leon.
It doesn't have a date, right? I think the only thing that could get in the way of that is if for some reason, and I do not believe this to be true, that Colby Covington somehow wouldn't be ready by, say, October, right? I think Leon has made it publicly clear that he wants Abu Dhabi. And I will say, if ever there were a market in which Belal Muhammad can help you pay-per-view and otherwise, it is Abu Dhabi. So maybe there would be an inside lane there for Belal if somehow there was a circumstance where Colby wanted to maybe be paid to sit aside, right? But no, it's going to be Colby Covington and Leon. But Dana White has publicly said, maybe on Jim Rome's show, that he didn't love a catchweight between Khamzat Chimaev and Kamaru Usman. And I understand why, because it does make things a little bit cloudy, right? Is Khamzat going to be a welterweight contender now all of a sudden? We were told he was leaving welterweight for good. He's still number 4 in the world, right? So I don't know. I don't need the water to be any murkier. There are plenty of guys worthy of a championship opportunity already at 70. But yes, that's a huge fight. And if it's like a middleweight eliminator, then great.
It has to be at middleweight. Those catchweights do nothing. It just holds up the divisions. Like you said, it gets murky. But the balls in Kamaru Usman to go, I'll fight Khamzat at middleweight. Yeah, at 170, it's a tough test, man. I mean, again, I'm a dick right. I'm all in on Khamzat. That guy scares the shit out of me. Super hairy, just a complete monster, right? So at 85, though, dude, who beats Khamzat at 85? And then Kamaru Usman, this is what kind of champion he is. He goes, no, I'll fight him. They're like, yeah, but Khamzat at 70 is a nightmare, man. He doesn't want to cut the weight. He goes, oh, no, I'll fight him at 85. It's like, what? So much respect for Kamaru.
Pretty badass.
I couldn't think of a worse matchup for him. It's a tough night in the office, man. Because Khamzat can't get fights, man. That's how scary this dude is.
There really aren't that many fights that you can give Khamzat Chimaev. It has to be a top guy. I mean, for me, I would argue the dream matchup is Robert Whittaker and Khamzat Chimaev, and perhaps that ship has sailed, at least for now. Izzy obviously would give tremendous issues to Khamzat Chimaev, but yeah, man, I'm just really getting impatient. I want to see Khamzat in a championship setting.
Dana said something about Khamzat has had opportunities, and it's been on him that he's not taking some of these fights. Is that accurate? What's going on that?
So when we were in Abu Dhabi, Andreas Michael, his head coach, essentially came out, and this is a couple of years ago now. Okay. I mean, my brain's a little bit cloudy as to the dates, but in 2021, this guy was on a definite welterweight path.
Sure.
And so I think that's probably what Dana is referencing, that there have been opportunities for this guy, right? He was thrice booked against Leon Edwards. I mean, it's not all that long ago. He's still ranked at 70. His last fight, right, wasn't all that long ago, and I believe it was contracted for 70, even though he weighed more than that, you know? Yeah, so, but I don't know. I mean, let's go already, right? It's like he's one of the best in the world. It's just weird to just be losing big chunks of your prime.
Because I thought they were going to do Kamaru Paulo Costa. I'm sorry, Khamzat Paulo Costa at 85. I thought that was pretty much done.
Yeah.
That's what I heard, and then now
that's what I thought.
Yeah. I just want to see him fight. I'm with you, Anik. There's a few guys like I can't wait to see Alex Pierre at light heavyweight. I think, oh my, that dude. You look at the matchups, my God, it's so exciting. I can't wait for him at 205. Yeah, savage.
I think I'm most excited, perhaps a recency bias, to just see what happens with Ian Garry, because man, it's like he's not even cocky, right? You talk about being misunderstood. Like the kid's not even cocky. He's really just confident.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's uncanny. I mean, the depth to this kid, right? Like I'm stirring the Schaub show back to Ian Garry, right? Like I'm blown away by this kid. I was a fucking idiot when I was 27. Look at this kid at 25 years old.
Oh, I know.
It's insane to me.
But there's nothing, especially with what we do, to me, there's nothing better in professional sports. Name any major sports league. There's nothing better than mixed martial arts, especially in the UFC, when you have a young kid and you see him go through all these levels, all these tests. There's nothing. When Conor was coming up, what a ride, man. So when I see that in Ian Garry, I'm like, oh, please give us that special moment. It's so fun, dude. Nothing's better.
And we talk a lot about Izzy's frame at 85. When I'm handicapping a fight between Robert Whittaker and Israel Adesanya, I begin the handicap with the size, right? And Whittaker may get him if they meet a third time, but man, better begin your handicap with the size. And Ian Garry's frame at welterweight, my goodness, man. My goodness.
Yeah, I'm all in. I'm absolutely all in. For the next kind of big pay-per-view, not my favorite pay-per-view, right? Was at UFC 289 in Canada. Usually they stack the Canada card for whatever reason. This one, obviously I'm a degenerate. I'll pay. It could cost $300. I pay for them, but it's not going to knock your socks off. It is what it is. But in the co-main event, that's that is the marquee matchup on this with Charles Oliveira, Dariush, Beneil Dariush, and you look at Dariush is kind of one of those guys who did it the hard way. I think did it the right way, but also did it the hard way where doesn't talk trash, chalks everything up to Jesus Christ, right? And just gets these wins. And then here he is in the title eliminator with Charles Oliveira. I cannot wait for that fight.
Yeah, Kempflo would pay $99.99 just for that fight. So.
If there was just the one fight, I would pay for it. Yeah,
I love that fight. And I think a lot of people might be sleeping on Dariush in that one. I think Dariush has improved a ton. He blew me away with his wrestling against Gamrot, Mateusz Gamrot. I did not expect that level of wrestling. He was shutting that down repeatedly. If it did go to the ground, he was getting back to his feet. He has improved his striking. He's gone from being a big power puncher and being reckless to being a big power puncher and being way more defensively sound. And I think that's an extremely interesting fight and one that Dariush could definitely pull off. For Oliveira, he needs this one in some ways. He obviously wants to get back to the top. He has so many offensive weapons. I think defensively he does have some vulnerabilities, and I'm curious to see if Dariush can poke and prod and find a way to take him out.
Yeah, I have Dariush winning that fight. I picked Dariush. Yeah,
he's good, dude. Yeah.
Yeah, I love Charles Oliveira. I feel like my entire sort of UFC career has happened while his has, and I just can't get back to the main event against Max Holloway in Saskatoon where everybody's questioning his heart, and to see him then rise and change his life and have financial freedom. But yeah, man, Benny Dariush, and hope he doesn't take issue with us perpetually calling him fucking Benny Dariush, But yeah, I mean, at this point, it's like you win this fight, you need to sit down for however long and fight for the championship for your fan base, right?
Agree.
Beneil Dariush, for your fan base. Like at some point, you just need to reward them with the title fight. And candidly, like I'm forever linked to Leon Edwards. So if he ends up fighting Belal, it's like my heart's not really necessarily invented. But for Belal Muhammad's haters, like you already fucking lost because he got to the title fight.
Correct.
So you lost.
Yep.
It doesn't even matter what happens in the fight. And Belal would roll his eyes if he heard me say that. Doesn't even matter if Leon beats him, right? Doesn't even fucking matter.
He got the title.
If you're a Belal Muhammad hater, you already lost.
Yep.
Yeah.
Lost.
For sure.
Yeah, I don't know how you can hate on the guy. Kenny, this next question is probably more in your direction because you're involved with PFL. You're the head commentator at PFL. Francis Ngannou, I assume, announces, did he say he's going to announce this week? All signs are pointing that he's going to sign with you guys.
It's very possible. I don't have the inside track on that. I do know.
Kenny?
I know. I'm sorry. Sorry. I can't break news right now. But I know that there is some announcement planned soon. So I don't know exactly when it's coming, but I was literally, I've been asked this for the last couple of days. Is this Francis? Is Francis going to come? I don't know for sure, but I figured we were in the running, one of the leading candidates. I think it would be huge for them. Obviously, bringing Francis over would be massive. So let's see if we can pull it off, man.
Yeah, and the narrative on Francis is, people are upset the way the fan base and, analysts and YouTubers are critiquing the way he's dealt with this free agency and leaving the UFC. And it's not even a Francis. It's not a personal attack on Francis. I just feel like, you look at Nate leaves, he gets a fight announcement pretty soon, fighting Jake. So it's just like this long drawn out thing. It's like out of sight, out of mind. I think that's where the criticism comes from. And then you also were hoping for a big fight announcement because I thought, no knock on PFL, Kenny. I love you, but also it's like I thought the only reason to leave the UFC. You guys know I'm diehard UFC. UFC's in my blood, man. I absolutely love the UFC, but for him to leave the biggest organization in the world with the best marketing machine in the world, to leave, the only reason you would leave is that golden egg of a Deontay Wilder, Anthony Joshua, Fury fight is going to happen. And we haven't seen that. So to me, it's almost, if you're going to leave the UFC, it has to be the only way to kind of improve your status would be getting that major boxing fight. It doesn't sound like that's going to happen. So to leave the UFC to go to another MMA organization, it just doesn't sit right with me. It just doesn't. Kenny.
Yeah.
Because my argument, before you answer, Kenny, if I'm his manager, I'd go, who are you going to fight in PFL?
Right. Well, I mean, I'd say this. Obviously, you have John Jones there, right? But after John Jones, who is he going to fight? You know, both divisions, both the heavyweight divisions across the board aren't the strongest right now. But I think one thing you're probably forgetting about is that, for Francis, I think a lot of it has to do with respect. And there are a lot of, it is complicated with Francis. It's like, he's coming off a knee injury. He wants this boxing fight. But I think the other thing that people are kind of forgetting about is that, I think he has a history with the UFC where he has butted heads, his management, the UFC. And I think it, at this point, is kind of about respect a little bit. And maybe he's being stubborn, right? Because obviously, you have the UFC, which is the biggest mixed martial arts organization in the world. And you, as a fighter, you want to prove yourself against the best in the world. But for Francis, I don't know. He's a guy that kind of marches to the beat of his own drum, and he does things differently, clearly. And I don't know. Maybe the UFC dropped the ball on that one. I don't know, but we'll see what happens, man.
You are right about the respect, though, Kenny, and it's not just respect for himself that he's fighting for. And some people have suggested this is sort of a weird hill on which to die, as he's looking for clauses that maybe will in the future help affect things as far as respect for fighters, right? I mean, it's hugely problematic as an MMA fan to think that 25 years from now, the number 10 lightweight in the world is not going to be making $1 million to show, but it kind of is what it is, right? And it's very hard to affect change when it comes to collective bargaining agreements and fighter pay and things like that. And Brendan and I have over the years gotten into a lot of debates on fighter pay, but I do think part of the issue has been he's tried to fight for these things, and promotionally it becomes a little bit difficult, to sort of accept these type of demands. But yes, I mean, I do hope that he realizes that big payday, and hopefully his bank account is pretty fat to begin with. But I do think that there's always UFC heavyweight contenders that emerge in the UFC, but I'm not so sure, B, that ship hasn't sailed.
I agree. I think he could come back to the UFC. I think with Francis too, if you're going to make a change, that'd be like a stud quarterback in the NFL going to, again, it's not a knock on PFL, Kenny. I know, I respect PFL.
Sure.
I'm just saying this is very evident here where it's like, let's say Lamar Jackson wanted to make a change for quarterbacks in the NFL and then goes to the Canadian Football League and is demanding these changes. Okay.
Right.
It's like, okay, you got to be in the biggest promotion in the world in order to make a change. Because if the UFC is not making a change, who gives a shit?
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword, right? Because, you also have to battle the biggest machine in the world as well. So it's tough. I agree with you on some of those things, but it is extremely difficult to affect change because they're the UFC. I mean, they're the Kleenex of tissue, right? So it's like they are the machine. They are the biggest name. It's why Dana is so well known. In many ways, he's more known than the majority of the fighters. He walked in Charlotte, and it was like, I don't know. It was like the Beatles walking in.
It's like Donald Trump walking in.
More than any fighter. I mean, Jamal Hill, no one really knew who he was. Aljamain Sterling, no one was. He came in and everyone looked and everyone was trying to get to him. And everyone was trying to get out of their seats to get to him. This is by design, and Dana, of course, is a very charismatic personality, probably deserves a lot of that. But I think you have this guy who's running the organization, similar to Vince McMahon, who is, one of the biggest, if not the biggest name in the organization, more than the fighters. Is that right or wrong? I don't know.
No, you're right.
But I think that it's interesting that that's the case. Right?
No, on any given card, the three most famous guys in the building are not inside that octagon. It's Joe Rogan, Dana White and Jon Anik.
And
none of these
Jon
guys,
Anik.
none of these guys are getting punched in the face.
Oh man.
And they're the most famous guys in the arena.
Also the three smartest guys in the arena.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
Correct. I didn't want to say it, Kenny. Correct.
Yeah. But it is sort of a tricky thing, and it even extends to broadcasting, right, Brendan? Fucking Brian. Like, it even extends to the broadcasting world, and not to go into too much detail, but like ESPN, right? Like the NFL doesn't tell ESPN and ABC who calls the fights. The UFC tells ESPN who's calling the fights.
Yeah,
right.
UFC controls the live production. It even extends to TV.
Love that.
And ESPN's pretty big.
Yeah. They're owned by Mickey Mouse. Yeah.
Hey, I mean,
calling the
ESPN could
shots.
want. Hey, I mean, that could be keeping me employed, right? I mean, who knows? ESPN could want somebody else calling the fights, right? I'm just saying, though, like even the uniqueness of mixed martial arts, it extends to the television world as well. That's all.
No, I agree. And I think I have anxiety with the fights I want to see. You know, I talked about Alex Pierre at 205, Khamzat at 85, fighting, you know, for a big fight there, title eliminator fight, hopefully. And then also the other one, you know, and I'm a hardcore dick rider when it comes to Conor McGregor as well. With Conor, you want the Conor and you want the Michael Chandler fight to happen. It's depending how, you know, the Ultimate Fighter goes. You're talking to two tough alumni here, Anik, with me and Kenny. So I hope the Ultimate Fighter comes back and kind of gets that momentum. It's been a disaster for a hot second since season 10, I think, which is the biggest season of all time. Credit to, I like to say I get credit there, but it's probably Kimbo Slice, right? But with the Ultimate Fighter, they're headed in the right direction with Conor and Michael Chandler. I just think, depend Conor and the USADA testing, if we don't get that fight fairly soon after the finale, it's tough, man. So, like I said, I have anxiety because I want a date on Conor. Give me something in cement in 2023 that he's going to fight.
No, I couldn't agree with you more. And it was sort of okay in February when we heard about September, but now it's May and we want to hear about a fight. And maybe I can break some news. We're blowing it out for the Ultimate Fighter. I'm flying to Bristol for the first time in years in 2 days to film this Ultimate Fighter launch party.
Love it.
We're blowing it out. I think we might even interview Eddie Alvarez, the Underground King, which is going to get me very starstruck because I haven't talked to Eddie in years. But no, I think anyone who's a fan of the Ultimate Fighter is really going to enjoy everything that comes with this season, it being on linear TV. But there's a huge but. It's like, we need a date, bro. Like, I don't know. I think you laid it out perfectly. I have nothing to add.
Yeah, I need a date. I need something to know Conor's going to fight this year. I need something. Even if they're like, yeah, man, it's going to be March 2026. I'm like, so you're telling me there's a chance?
Right.
You know? Like, give me something. Because with USADA and the test, I'm like, is this actually going to happen?
I've said repeatedly that the competition Conor's looking for is not anywhere but the competition that could happen in the octagon. So I'm cautiously optimistic that he fights fourth quarter, but I'm getting impatient. You know, June 1st is 2 weeks away.
Dang, it is, isn't it? We're going to summertime, man.
That's right. I think you should buy more fish for the summer week.
Dude, I'm going to go broke by these damn fish.
This whole house is just going to be a fish tank.
I don't even want to know the annual allowance, right?
Oh, dude, don't get me started. Do not get me started. This just popped in my mind, Kenny. When we're talking about guys fighting the UFC, then also doing analyst work. I'll never forget when I was working with you at Fox. We were doing some show, you know, whatever the Fox UFC show was there.
Yeah.
And we're waiting for valet. And I'm the biggest Porsche fan you ever met. Me and Kenny love Porsches. That's our thing. Yeah. And we're waiting, you know, at the time, I forget, I had just an okay car, like the basic 911. You know, I was trying to get my bearings underneath me, and I put all my money into a used 911, which was like a huge goal for me. And so I'm waiting for my car, and they just came out. I don't know how many years ago, it just came out. It was a Carrera GTS Targa. Yeah. Porsche, which was like my holy grail at the time, and pulls up, and I go, Kenny, look at that, a brand new Targa, dude. Whose do you think that is? And Kenny's like, what? I go, look at that fucking car, dude. And Kenny goes, that's mine. I go, dude, I went, what? He goes, that's mine, man. I went, gee, wow. Wow, man. All right, have a good day. And then here comes my busted 911 behind. I'm like, that's mine.
I think it was the first one in LA, enough. But dude, yeah, so it was, you didn't really see him at the time. Yeah, but here's the thing.
I think about that once a week, by the way. Once a week, that goes through my mind.
Brendan has literally had the the unicorns of cars. Like since then he's had a GT3 RS, a GT2 RS, he's got a Rari. I mean, how many Ferraris do you have at this point? This dude's killing it.
And it started with you, Kenny. Once I saw him, like, I need to step my game up, dude. I will never forget that.
I went out to shoot Food Truck Diaries, and he has some car that is painted the most beautiful dark green you've ever seen in your life. So he's doing okay.
He's got.
That's the GT2, Kenny. I got it in green now. Yeah,
I love it. I love it.
I think about that once a week. Once a week when I make bad decisions.
It's a great story, and it is told with 100% veracity. There's no embellishment.
Yeah. But all those cars are investments. You can make more off of those things now. You just have to be able to get one. And once you get one, you'll probably sell it for more than what you bought.
I'll tell you right now, it's a better investment than fish. I'm not getting a lot of return on fish.
Exactly.
It's a complete nightmare. Before we get out of here, fellas, I was talking to my boy Tom, who you guys know, who books my show, and he told me a while ago that you guys moved over to DraftKings now. So is the podcast clear for me? And we don't have to hear this, whatever you guys want to do, but just from a business aspect. So now is the show is it kind of like similar to a Rogan Spotify deal where it's only available on DraftKings? So DraftKings started their own network.
So the DraftKings YouTube channel and the DraftKings network are where our full-length video episodes now reside. Clips of our show are still on the regular Anik and Florian podcast YouTube channel. Nothing changes on the audio side, but really this just allows us to align with, I think, what is a perfect partner for our show based upon the content, and allows me to pay our staff, right? Audio engineer and a producer and a handicapper, the coach Ray Longo. Ken Flow's fucking expensive, so we're very happy to have this deal. And
I get it.
We sort of at times have referred to our show as the little engine that could, because we have focused for 8 years on content, and nice to finally have a deal that allows us to extend, reach a different audience, and go twice a week, which was not the reality for the first 7.5 years of the show. And as I said, to pay Ken Flow to get his wife up.
I mean, the little engine that could. What are you guys talking about? You guys are one of the staples in the freaking sport. It's not like two guys we've never heard of. It's two brilliant guys in the space, Hall of Famers, talking about fighting, man. I listen to the show all the time. That's why when I heard it was the DraftKings deal, I was like, oh, it's going to be off Apple now. But then, this morning I listened to it. No issue.
Yeah, nothing changed. Yeah, and no, we're excited. I went to Ken Flow in 2015, and I'm very thankful that I did. We were both on the West Coast. I was in Vegas, and he was in LA when we started the show, and now we're both back east. But I might move to Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm not even messing around, and then we'd be in studio together. So
I might too, man. I'm looking for.
Let's go.
LA is a real shithole, so I might have to go.
Water's great.
Yeah, I might get out there, man. I might get out there, dudes. With Ray Longo, that whole team. Crushing it, man. That's one of the best parts about this gig is I meet so many people, and some people you vibe with, some, they're great, but you don't vibe with them. But that Mike Favola, the steamroller, we had him on before he fought a few times, and we've texted back and forth. I just love that kid, man. I absolutely fucking love that kid. I want the world for him. You see him fight. He's coming on the show. He has his shirt off. He's a redhead. Yeah, Matt, what'd I say? I said Mike, my bad. Matt. Yeah, absolutely love
He's the man, dude.
Yeah, that whole team.
Family.
That whole team, dude.
I don't know if you know that Favola's wife recently gave her father one of her kidneys. I mean, they're incredible people.
What?
Yeah, dude. This girl, I think her name's maybe Billie Jean. I shouldn't even have tried it, but she's I think 30 something, early 30s, young girl, his wife, they just got married, and she just gave one of her kidneys to her dad. But yeah, we know the whole family. Sal the Bulldozer Favola, his father, great group, and nice to see them realize some success, because he's always been a really good fighter, painted with a brush of a guy who just goes in there balls to the wall, but he's top 15 now.
Yeah, I told him in that Drew Dober fight, it was Monday, he's fighting on that Saturday. I go, Matt, I love you, dude. You got to fight smart. Drew Dober, I've known for a hot second. We came up in the regional circuit together. That's not a guy you just want to trade with. I'm telling you got to be smart, man. He's like, nope. Ray tells me you're going to win this one with your mind. He went in there and did his thing, man.
Yeah.
He did.
Yeah. And Longo can't walk anymore, but he can sure coach, can he?
Man, can he coach. That whole team, man.
Yeah.
With Marab, you got Sterling there. The whole squad, man, is just doing the damn thing. So shout out to them.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of different ways you can tap into an athlete's mind. And it's nice for me to see some of these coaches who, because Ray, sometimes it's just about the mental, and just having him sort of there, and whatever you sort of need from him, you get from him. And, he's not holding mitts as much as he used to. That's why for the podcast, anything that he can do to make money when he's not, giving of his body is a really good thing for him. So,
I mean, he's doing the merch too. You guys launched his merch and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So,
yep. His stuff's the best selling stuff. We should probably put his name on the fucking show.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Well, fellas, I know you're busy. You got to do your podcast now.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we're going to tape our show in about 3 minutes, and off we go.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you guys. I love the fuck out of both you gentlemen. So, hey, man, Anna, you start looking at property in North Carolina, hit your boy up, dude.
We'll get a 2-family home together, and all I ask is that you come on our podcast and give us like 25 minutes in the next couple of weeks.
Whatever you want, man. As long as you can deal with fish and your wife's cool with it, I'll move out there.
Good, love it.
All right, fellas, thanks for the time, man. Talk soon.
Hey, Schaub.
Thank
See
you, guys.
Later, fellas. There you have it. Kenny, Florian, Jon Anik. Before we jump into current events, this is the last read for you guys. All right? We're talking about Onnit, Onnit.com. If you missed their semi-annual sale, you're probably pretty sad. Don't be too sad because you can still try Alpha Brain, save 10% off. We're talking about Alpha Brain, the best nootropic on the planet. They sold over 1 million bottles. I used Alpha Brain Black Label. It's the highly concentrated Alpha Brain. But if you're not a vet like me with the Alpha Brain nootropics, try just the regular Alpha Brain. You have no risk here because they get your money back guaranteed. You don't have to return the product. Keep the product. They return your money if you don't absolutely love Alpha Brain. All right, it's the best nootropic. You can use Alpha Brain however you want. They have the regular Alpha Brain, all right, or they have the Alpha Brain Black. They got Alpha Brain Instant. They have the shots. I love them all, but Alpha Brain Black, I swear by right now. Remember, with the nootropics, you can remember names better, places, addresses, phone numbers, helps you with complex tasks, think more clearly under stress, react more quickly. Who can't use that? So if you've always wanted to try a nootropic, try Alpha Brain. They've sold over 1 million bottles, for God's sakes. I like the Black Label. It's super, super effective, all right? Also on it, as you guys well know, they offer fitness equipment like kettlebells, steel club maces, sandbags, yoga mats. You need better nutrition. Try and get your diet right for the thick boy summer. It's not a UFC summer because UFC is a little light, right? It's a thick boy summer. So if you need to get that body right and you get that body popping like Almeida in the main event, they have MCT oil, protein powders, protein bars, warrior bars. We got it all. Creatine, fish oil, Alpha Brain, all right? You can save 10% off when you go to onnit.com/shop. You receive 10% off all Alpha Brain products, all workout gear, fitness gear, streaming fitness. We got you covered. Don't be sad you missed the semi-annual sale. You still save 10% off. Go to onnit.com/shop right now. Receive 10% off. Now let's get to the program. There you have it. Two of the best and brightest, man. Absolutely love those guys. I think we need to move to North Carolina, fellas.
Sounds good.
You want to move to North Carolina? Yeah. I've spent enough time there. I've only done shows in Charlotte, but I didn't get to really see the city. If you move somewhere new, you don't want to move into like the downtown, wherever, any major city, you don't want to be downtown. You want to be right outside. That's where you want to be, where it's safe, it's nice. You drive in the city, do your work, then get out. Daily temps around 88.
I remember going there once, and it was freaking hot, but beautiful.
Highest average daily temp is 89. You get a little humidity. They don't get really snow there, do they? I don't think they get snow there.
Oh.
Can't do snow.
Does North Carolina snow?
Snow in North Carolina is seen on a regular basis in the mountains. Not worried about that. They get 5 inches of snow per winter season. So no. That means no. I know I've been there where it gets chilly, but as far as I think Muggsy Bogues lives there, so that's another reason to move there. All right, Chin, let's jump right into it. I think me, Kenny, and Anik covered most of the Charlotte card, everything UFC related, little PFL, Francis news. So let's just jump in. What do you got for me, buddy?
Here's a quick one. So there's also a Bellator over the weekend, and Fabian Edwards, who's Leon Edwards' brother. Yeah, he beat Gegard Mousasi. Big
feather in the cap there. Gegard's one of the best.
So Dana White said this about Johnny Walker after the win. He said he didn't really wow anyone in Charlotte. And then this is exactly what he said here that didn't sound that good.
Walker didn't really wow. This is Dana White speaking. Walker didn't really wow anybody tonight, but he won. He was put on the co-main event to kind of shine night. He got a W, so I guess that's good.
That's a bummer
because he outclassed Anthony Smith, who's an absolute monster, top 5 perennial, top 5. It's easier said than done. To Dana White's point there, he could have got him out of there. He could have. The flying knee wobbled him. That was late. When Anthony Smith was just down, kind of grabbing, at the legs there, it looked like Anthony wanted out, but I think Johnny Walker's showing maturity there. Didn't want to risk anything. Or he got the W. Yeah, you're not gonna impress the UFC brass when you play it safe. But he'll get a big name next.
Okay, so the audio doesn't work on this because I think it's copywritten, so we're not going to play it anyways. But there's a guy from the post, or no, I'm sorry, there's a press conference for Nate Diaz, Jake Paul, and one of the guys that works for Jake Paul at Better, he called out Nate Diaz's brother Nick in a really douchebag way.
Usually the event, especially when Jake Paul, Logan to that point too, but Jake Paul, they put on the whole press conference, the whole production.
Yeah.
Usually it's great. The press conference is crushed. This one was awkward. Nate seemed like he didn't really want to be there. Jake didn't know how to handle Nate really. Yeah. It was awkward. And then you get the cherry on top of a complete shit show. You have this just total tool get on the mic. And he goes, "It's Derek from Better Media here. My question is for Nate. Nate, I'm actually a boxer myself." You're not. "And I've been trying to get into this undercard." Then he said, "I'm wondering if you think I could fight your brother Nick. If he's anything like you, I think I could beat his fucking ass."
Yeah.
Brother, what are you going to just... Oh, this is Nate. Brother, what are you just going to walk around the streets or some shit? All my homeboys see right now? That was stupid. Hey, Derek, Better Media, stupid ass mother trucker. What the truck? You need your ass whipped. And then he got fired.
Apparently, that's
because Jake was like, he works for me. I'm going to fire him. And then the kid got so much backlash.
Yeah,
Boy, the Diaz family bro backlash comes in like a landslide. This kid had no idea what he was doing. I don't understand. I mean, I guess it's the MMA journalist douchebag thing in a nutshell, right? Like these guys think they can talk to Nate and Nick like this. Yeah. But there's going to be repercussions. And it's also, he's not a journalist. It's too easy to be labeled a journalist these days. But for this kid too, I don't know what the motive was there. Oh, you think Nick's gonna fight you on the undercard? You have no fights. The whole thing just so stupid, so cringy. It couldn't be worse for Jake Paul. Like, you want to be taken serious, and this guy works for your business. He's part of. This is the biggest story out of the press conference. It's not good.
Yeah, it's pretty lame.
So, but I would like to apologize for the question I asked at the Jake Paul and Nate Diaz press conference. I would especially like to apologize to my boss, Jake Paul, and definitely want to apologize to Nate Diaz. Nate, please don't hurt me, but if you do, I definitely deserve it. Having said all this, Nick Diaz, the contract has been sent.
And then he called out Drake, too. Everything's cringe about this.
Who's just a complete tool.
Yeah.
Kid's probably not giving me the business too much longer. If he even was in the business, who knows?
Who knows? So this
was bad.
Yeah. Rolly Romero versus Ismael Barroso. And then everyone agrees that the stoppage was way too early.
It just shows you how corrupt boxing is. They didn't want this old vet beating the young kid, and he was about to do it, and then Tony Weeks stopped the fight. Clarissa Shields, what'd she say? Boxer took an L tonight. That shit was pathetic, and Barroso's ain't 40. I don't know. I don't care what y'all say. Good night. Y'all done ruined the
quote. The greatest woman of all time.
Gotcha.
Weekend. And that's Ryan Garcia.
Wow, that was dirty way too early. Yeah, super, super shady.
And people, this one's funny from Cambosos.
Even if he's 63.
Because he looks really old.
Yeah.
It's a trip.
He does.
Yeah.
Yeah, boxing's so corrupt, man.
So, Rampage Jackson's over at the UFL. His son won his UFL debut.
Went down in Memphis, Tennessee. UFL 2 went down. And they hit 200,000 views on Rumble, which is insane for a new fight league on Rumble, especially. You guys know Frank Mir and Rampage are both super heavily involved in UFL. So I think it was cool for Rampage to have his son fight in his hometown,
Yep, TKO win too.
Raja got it done. He opened the card. Super impressive TKO win. I think his dad's going to let him turn pro now.
Yep.
What do you want? He said he had to have 10 amateur fights, but after passing this test, he's going to let him turn pro. The whole card was good. I watched all of it. They had people from the UK, South America. He looked good. He looked really good.
Yes, sir. Okay, so as soon as Matt Brown won, I guess he tied for most KOs with Derek Lewis. And then Conor McGregor tweeted about it or said something about it.
Matt Brown, at 42 years of age, now holds the joint highest KO inside the UFC with 13 KOs. Him and the Beast, Derek Lewis, are tied. I hold 8 KOs. That's 5 short inside the UFC. Currently at 34 years of age, I'm getting this record. Tough.
And then Matt Brown.
He goes, I'll fight you for it?
Yep.
That's hilarious. I'd watch that fight all day.
We talked about this already, but yeah, so tomorrow.
So May 16th, yeah, assuming, I can't believe Kenny didn't give us. Kenny, you know, dude.
Yeah.
Kenny knows. How dare you? But, yeah, May 16th. I mean, I don't think that it's going to be PFL. Where else is he going to go?
Yeah, unless he does some sort of like boxing. Yeah,
that'd be cool. I hope it's the boxing thing. That'd be sick.
Yeah. Here's another quick one. Henry Cejudo's coach, who's kind of odd, you know, Eric Albarracin.
The glasses.
Yeah, he was on Ariel Helwani's show, and he said that UFC 288 had 700,000 pay-per-view buys, but no one, you know, there's no.
Aljo said, I think they did 225
at the
and
most.
Aljo gets a pay-per-view cut, so he would know.
Yeah.
I was told yesterday, this is Aljo go. I was told yesterday we'd be lucky to break 250 pay-per-view buys, and you're going on air to lie that you know for certain we made 700,000. Are you on the bottle this afternoon, bro? Stop the cap. For the old heads out there, cap means lying. I don't know why. Do you guys know the definition of cap?
Yeah, I mean, it means lying, but I don't know why.
No, I'm saying why
I don't
cap.
know, have no idea.
Me neither. We're old.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no way that fight did 700 buys. But why put that out there?
700,000.
That's just him trying to get traction for his guy. You know, be like, look, he's actually a draw. And it's like, no.
But I mean, I'm sure the actual pay-per-view numbers will eventually come out, so it's going to look weird.
Yeah, maybe.
Your boy Sean O'Malley. Remember when he first thought that Cejudo won?
Well, we did a one-on-one with Sugar Sean last week, and I said you were sitting cage side. You scored it for Cejudo. I said, obviously, that's going to be biased because everybody knows watching cage side, this is why the judges scoring is ridiculous. It's hard to critique a fight. It's hard to judge it correctly. And he goes, yeah, you're right. I need to watch it. Here we go. Rewatch Henry versus Aljo. 4-1 Aljo.
Complete difference.
Crazy how much different the fight looked from being there live compared to TV. So, boy, were you off, Jim.
Yeah, dude. I got to watch it again.
You might be right. I mean, just me, Dominic Cruz, Sugar Sean think Aljo.
I know.
You might be right.
Dude, we're sipping like
Oh, that's I never put too much weight into when we critique the fights off that.
Also, Sean O'Malley, so Mother's Day just happened on his YouTube channel. He gave away $100,000 to his, I believe, his wife and his mom. So $50K each.
Oh, $50K
yeah,
each?
And
He's getting that Dana White bonus.
He's got a lot of money, dude. So that was pretty dope.
Yeah, it's cool. Trying to outshine all the sons out there. God, $50K, man. Give my wife some sneakers.
Well, you buy her cars and stuff, so same.
Well, yeah.
So I didn't want to bring this up for Kenny to answer, but apparently 9 fighters from PFL are suspended, and they won't say exactly what it is, but most likely it's
there's more
drugs. Yeah,
there's more. Yeah,
yep.
Yeah, there's a lot more there too, and it was over like a period of time. Like it wasn't like all in one fight card. It's over a period of time. Apparently, there's a lot more to this story as well.
Gotcha.
Anybody you think's on steroids in PFL, they're on steroids. Yeah,
it's like
PFL.
Go ahead, yeah.
Let them do their thing.
Yeah.
It's like slap fight league. Yeah, let them do the whatever.
I know, that's the funniest
let
one.
Let them do coke and slap.
This is obviously this is going to come, but so Robbie Lawler announced that he's going to retire after his next fight at UFC.
Yeah, but he's not on the main card, is he? I think he's on the undercard.
The last prelim or something?
I think so.
I don't know, but that's against Nico Price.
Look, Lawler versus Nico will headline the prelims.
Damn.
All this guy's done how much for the UFC's on the prelims? You son of a bitch.
I get it though. Him and Nico Price on the last prelim. That
I don't. No. Dude, have somebody else do it. He deserves to be on the main cards.
He definitely deserves
ridiculous.
It. But he's going to bring a lot of attention.
It's Robbie Lawler, you son of a bitch. How's he not on the main card? For his last fight, all he's done for the UFC? Disrespectful.
Did you read this headline already? John Jones, for his pay-per-view, it grossed more than the UFC has in the past 12 months, so just out of the year.
Yeah, I always told you guys, the narrative that John Jones isn't a big pay-per-view star, that was created by the UFC back in the day. They pushed that narrative. It's just not true. You look at his numbers, it's not true in any facet. Massive pay-per-view star. probably the biggest they have. You look at over his long career.
Yep. Revenue of 353.3 million for the quarter, which is up 56.6 million.
You just look at his numbers of all the major pay-per-views he's headlined. The numbers are solid. Now, are they Ronda Rousey, Conor McGregor? No, but over just the average, he's a pay-per-view star, man. He's the greatest of all time. The UFC pushed that narrative, which is so weird. Because that's your product, man. It doesn't make sense. He represents you guys.
So this weekend is
tough fight.
Mackenzie Dern versus Angela Hill.
Love Mackenzie Dern.
Saturday.
Love Angela Hill.
At the Apex, too.
Yeah.
And here's the card.
One. My boy Edmund Shabazian's fighting as the co-main event. Anthony Hernandez. That's a great fight. It's a tough card, man.
It is very tough.
Very tough. Chase Hooper back in action. It's a tough fucking card.
So tough.
I tried hyping you guys up. I'm sorry. You see, we were looking at, because we look at for companions or to break down stuff. The summer's not fun. Usually they pack the summer. It's tough, man. There's someone put out this question: would you rather the UFC do less cards so we get more big name fights and like stack cards, or just keep doing what they're doing so you have a fight every week? I would rather have less cards, more stacked lineups.
It definitely felt a lot bigger back in the days. Yeah.
Because now you're going the boxing model, which clearly that hasn't worked out for them.
Yeah, and everything's up in the air.
You have so many fights we're waiting for.
Yeah.
Lomachenko, Devin Haney's a good one. That's coming up May 20th. Yeah, there's not a lot to be excited about. We're just waiting, man. Yeah, summer's light. It is not a UFC summer. It's a thick boy summer, not a UFC summer.
I know. Hopefully we get news, though, with Francis.
Yeah.
And John Jones.
That July card stacked. The pay-per-view in July stacked. June's tough.
Yeah.
Is that it, Chin?
That's pretty much it.
All right, dude. Those were terrible. All right, kids. Hope you all enjoyed the show. Hopefully you enjoyed the brilliant Jon Anik, Kenny Florian, Pasadena. See you this Friday at the Ice House, Shopping Friends, 8 p.m. show. And then June 2nd to the 4th, the tour officially picks back up in the Comedy Store in La Jolla, right outside San Diego. That's a Friday, Saturday, Sunday show. And then starting June 15th, I'm jumping over to the UK. I'm in Belfast, Glasgow, Manchester, London, Cardiff, and Dublin. Get your tickets at thickboy.com. All right, kids, that's it. Be nice to each other. Love you. Go Nuggets. See you next week.